Joining me now, pollster, political communications expert Lee Carter from Maslansky and Partners, and Tony Sayegh, Republican campaign strategist, Fox News contributor. Great to see you guys on such an important and exciting night. We're looking at, look at this. I mean, this race in Florida is going back and forth again, as I keep repeating, and I apologize for repeating it, but it is so early. But to see the contest that's underway there, this, you know, we had sort of a sense going into this. It's going to break one way or the other. That hasn't happened at this point. Are you surprised at how close and how volatile it is?
I'm not surprised that Florida is this close at this point. First of all, we don't have the panhandle back in, which is traditionally going to be the right. place where most Republicans are going to be voting.
We're going to take care of that shortly.
That's right. And I think everybody's been saying with Miami-Dade reporting so strong with the Hispanic vote that it was going to be a landslide in Florida, and we're not seeing that yet. So I think that too close to call. I'm not surprised. All the polls all along, you know, today, yesterday was a couple points, 0.2 or whatever it was ahead for Trump. Day before ahead for Hillary. This isn't surprising. Yeah,
and Blaise Ingoglia, the head of the GOP in Florida, has said all day long, he has been very clear about it. He believes that the Republicans will overcome an early deficit created by early voting, which has been typical in Florida. Will overcome it, and he hopes, of course, win for the Trump campaign.
That's right, Lou. And the Republican deficit this time versus 2012 in early voting was significantly less. And Barack Obama only won the state in 2012 by 0.9%. So clearly, we have some built-in advantages. Duval County is overperforming. That's Jacksonville. Hillsborough, a very key bellwether county, overperforming for Republicans. And though the Broward turnout is higher, it's still underperforming for Democrats by about 4 to 6 points. So you are seeing that in this fluctuation of numbers where periodically when some precincts report Hillary's up by about a point, now we see more precincts reporting Trump is up by close to 2. This is what we're going to see for quite a while. And the other point too, Lou, is Florida had a ground game for Republicans. There's this huge misnomer that just because the Trump campaign didn't necessarily have the same classic campaign as Hillary Clinton, that there wasn't such an organization. Republican Party of Florida had it, the RNC had it. Clearly they were ready for this type of battle.
Yeah, and the RNC pointing out today that the ground game dwarfs what Mitt Romney had in 2012. Something like 860 community organizers, not community organizers, out for Romney. This year, 7,600 organizers in the field for the Republican National Committee. Now, admittedly, those are working primarily down ticket and not necessarily all for Trump, but he has to be a beneficiary, at least at the margin of the worst of that.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think that when we talk about the ground game is so important, but I think what people need to understand about the ground game is that it's not, and you know, it's a traditional way that people get out to the polls. And so there's other operational techniques now that we can do that. There's early voting. There's a lot of different things that we haven't seen before. The ground game is absolutely critical. The message is also really, really important. And Trump did have a message that really resonated with voters. And so you got to hope that that's enough to catapult. And he did have a ground game through the RNC. Hillary's ground game was just extraordinary.
You know what?
Just like Obama's was.
Yeah.
And look, Obama, we forget this, he won narrowly in a lot of these critical states. And what Trump has that Romney doesn't is significant enthusiasm and a broadened base that, frankly, Lou, I'm just going to caution the viewers not to read too much into exit polls, because I'm not sure they're going to pick up on some of these kind of nuances that Trump has been able to generate. Closet Trump voters, new Trump voters, people who aren't necessarily going to be as forthcoming about their support of Donald Trump. So if you're not going to do it in a regular traditional poll, you're not going to do it in an exit poll either.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you're making, and an important caution to all when they're looking at these numbers. A great deal of science is applied to come up with the exit polls and the analysis and the conclusions, but it's not a perfect science, and it's again, as I've been saying throughout, I'm repeating my repetitions now. It's early days.
And also keep in mind that exit polls, they were released about 5 o'clock, which means that they were finished by 3 o'clock. So we're not getting the after-work voter yet. We're not getting those voters who are going 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, which is.
And as you look at what is happening in terms of the turnout of Hispanic voters in Florida, you know, a great deal of attention and importance has been attached to that as well. How significant is it, and which way will it break, and can it be overcome? Because Angola has acknowledged how important that that turnout is and how significant it is, but not the impact that it might have on the result.
For starters, viewers have to know that Donald Trump is getting essentially the same percent of Hispanic voters as Mitt Romney. So as much as there was this idea that the floor was going to fall out from an already low 2012 performance by the Republican candidate, that hasn't happened, number one. Number two, the Hispanic turnout is up by about 1% in total population of the electorate. If the African-American turnout is lower, all that does is make up for lost ground from the traditional Obama coalition. It's not a net gain necessarily for Hillary Clinton, which is why we have to be extraordinarily careful as these numbers come in, Lou. Make no mistake, Florida is as close to a must-win for Donald Trump as any other state, but let's just suppose for an idea that he might not make it there. Let's look at how close it is in Michigan and Pennsylvania and others. This might end up getting kicked up into the upper Midwest Rust Belt state, which on a message kind of cluster of issues has been where Donald Trump has been building the campaign all along.
Yeah, I don't think there is any doubt. I won't hesitate to tell you, be prepared for a long evening here. We are. And you get the last thought here on this.
Well, I just think that it's too close to call. It's too early to call. I think that every vote has not yet been counted. I think that we need to keep our eyes on Florida, North Carolina. I am really interested to see what's going to happen with Pennsylvania and Michigan, because I do think that Donald Trump could still have a surprise there. And if he has a surprise there, we're going to be seeing a total changing landscape of the entire electoral map now going forward.
And that's what makes this evening so exciting, when we have the privilege of reporting on election night to you. It doesn't get much better than this. Democracy in action, history in the making, and it's a hoot. Lee Carter, we appreciate it. Tony Sayegh, thank you very much.
Thank you.